Good evening, I'm John Carter, and welcome to Poland Daily. Polish authorities have taken a step back in the disagreement with the European Union over the justice system reform. The European Commission was displeased with the decision to send judges working for the Polish Supreme Court who began their careers during communism into retirement. The European Justice Tribunal supported the objection, and today Polish Parliament updated the Justice Bill to allow for the return of the formerly retired judges. Aleksandra Zarzycka has the story.
For weeks there has been speculation about an amendment to the Act of the Polish Supreme Court. The seventh draft of the amendment to the law was passed today. Forced on Poland's ruling party Law and Justice by the Court of Justice of the European Union, the amendment demands that all judges who were forced into retirement be reinstated to their previous positions. It further stipulates that Małgorzata Gersdorf stay Chief Justice of the Polish Supreme Court. This is a withdrawal of sorts from the court's personnel changes that Law and Justice has been pushing for in recent months. The opposition said today that this amendment is not necessary in order to ensure the court's protection. Rather, it is implemented automatically. Law and Justice announced the amendment is a show of goodwill and respect for EU laws. The ensuing debate in the Polish parliament was heated, fast, and emotional. You lack basic manners. You didn't invite the Supreme Court's Chief Justice. You didn't invite parliament legislators. Who then is actually allowed to comment and give their 2 cents on the amendment? The legislative path should run straight from Nowogrodzka Street to the list of laws. Neither Parliament, Senate, or President are necessary. You did not respect the decisions of the European Court of Justice at all. Anyone who questions the court's decisions also questions Poland's position in the European Union and makes the first step toward a Pole exit. This amendment is empty, ladies and gentlemen. It is about nothing. It doesn't say anything about the judges nominated thus far. It doesn't say anything about the assessors nor those on the jury. It is about nothing. It is a law for you. It merely shows the Polish parliament does not function according to electoral regulations. I withheld my vote in the last legislative vote because that law, in my opinion, made the advantage clear that legislation has on the judicial power. And in our constitution, these two are equal. We shouldn't want these two sides to fight, but for them to understand one another and be in equilibrium. We shouldn't leave this up to interpreters. So if the EU is telling us what our contribution to this inter-Polish dispute should look like, let's respect that contribution asked of us. Our government, our environment, the environment of good change, made very clear that we are in the European Union and that we respect all its rules and principles. Months and years have passed, and here we are talking about a mere 3 days. 3 days versus 1,000 days. You see the difference? It's worth looking at. You will witness the consequence. This is already the 7th amendment to the justice system reform prepared by Law and Justice. It remains to be seen how EU institutions will react to it, and if this could perhaps be the end of the disagreement with Brussels.
Yesterday, the chairman of Civic Platform, Grzegorz Schetyna, called for early parliamentary elections in relation to the recent scandal around Financial Supervision Authority in Poland. Today, however, Schetyna clearly toned down his rhetoric, possibly because he knows the Law and Justice Party would not allow it.
Yesterday, the leader of Civic Platform announced that he was going to file a vote of no confidence motion against the Law and Justice government. We will be considering the issue this week. In order to reach a constructive vote of no confidence, a minimum of 231 members of parliament is needed. Meanwhile, currently the Law and Justice Party possesses the majority in the House, and its members are regarding Grzegorz Schetyna's announcement as political fiction. This is impossible. In my opinion, there are no grounds to entertain such a possibility at the moment. A constructive vote of no confidence would require the appointment of a candidate for Prime Minister, which Schetyna would prefer saved for himself. That is certainly something that Schetyna would want. The question is whether he can manage to unite and convince the opposition to denounce the government. The main reason for the vote of no confidence seems to be the recent Financial Supervision Authority scandal. This whole affair is undoubtedly a part of some sort of a political game. The question is whether Schetyna will put the motion forward now or wait until the FSA scandal blows up even more. The newest survey political party support does not seem to show any notable changes in the voters' preferences. According to the poll, 40% are willing to vote for the Law and Justice Party. The Civic platform may receive 30%, 3% more than if they joined forces with the Modern Party. Parliamentary elections will take place in the autumn of next year.
The former Deputy Finance Minister, Elżbieta Hojna-Duch, of the previous Civic platform-led government, gave sensational testimony today. She stated the Finance Minister at the time, Jacek Rostowski, ignored a conflict of interest, allowing the introduction of external advisers who took over the legislative process from government officials, allowing crooks to form the VAT law.
The chairman of the VAT Parliamentary Investigative Commission, Marcin Horała, announced that in the coming days the Commission will most likely file a criminal charge against former Finance Minister Jacek Rostowski and former head of the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland, Sławomir Nowak.
Dowiedzieliśmy się z zeznań.
We learned today from the Deputy Finance Minister that the previous government, led by the Civic Platform Party, that the VAT legislation was in fact dictated by people from the accounting companies specializing in VAT tax returns. The political umbrella was provided by Minister Nowak, the head of the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland, then Donald Tusk. This testimony was given under oath, so we treat the information very seriously. They show how large-scale the corruption was and the fact that people from an external legislative body were involved in creating the law. We can pretty much guess who those people were and why they did it. This is huge white-collar crime of value-added tax extortion. We already identified 2 people who might get criminal charges and we will continue our investigation. The next step of the Parliamentary VAT Investigative Commission is to identify new witnesses to be called. In the coming days, we will also form 2 notifications to the prosecutor's office about possible criminal offense by Jan Vincent Rostowski, former finance minister, and another one by Sławomir Nowak, former head of the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland. They allowed people outside of government to bring legislative proposals, which later were used to create the possibility of the VAT fraud, costing the Polish state treasury hundreds of billions of zloty.
Prawdopodobnie doszło do popełnienia przestępstwa.
Central Anti-Corruption Bureau agents have conducted synchronized countrywide raids on the office of Alior Bank and press retailer Ruch. They searched for clues in an investigation concerning a credit line. Ruch management is accused of providing false information to Alior Bank in order to obtain a credit line for more than 153 million zloty. That's over $50 million. Robert Kubica, the famous Polish race driver, is set to return to Formula One. Williams Grand Prix Engineering, one of F1's biggest teams, has just signed the Polish driver. They've also agreed a sponsorship deal with the Polish petrochemical giant Orlen. The signing of Kubica and agreement with Orlen is one of the most prestigious deals in the history of Polish motor racing.
Robert Kubica is one of the most successful Polish drivers in history, having won the 1998 and 1999 Junior Monaco Kart Cup, finished third in the 2006 Italian F1 Grand Prix and 2008 Canadian Grand Prix. The 34-year-old, who makes his comeback to Formula One after 8 years, will be the second driver in the British team. A month ago, a 20-year-old Brazilian, George Russell, joined Williams as well. The idea is to blend experience with young talent. What makes the deal extraordinary is the fact that Orlen is said to have paid 10 million euros for the sponsorship, making it the biggest deal of its kind in the Polish history. Orlen's logo will be displayed on the cars themselves and on the drivers' suits. The Polish gasoline giants wish to promote itself more abroad, since around 60% of its income is generated outside of Poland, particularly in Germany and the Czech Republic. The Williams team is one of the biggest Formula One teams, along with Ferrari, McLaren and Renault. Kubica, who raced 76 times in total in F1 alone and stood on the podium 12 times, seems set to be a great asset to the British racing team.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather, and then join me after that for Poland Daily Business.